Hi there, my name is Emily Pinon. I'm the creative director at Ode and today I'm here to show you how to make arrangements from your Design by You box of flowers that you purchased. So very excited to be here. We have some gorgeous spring blooms, as you do as well. So let's talk about our elements and then we'll get started. So right now I have my ranunculus cleaned, prepared, and drinking water. This is actually a glass pitcher from my kitchen. So if you prefer your flowers one variety in a vase, something like this is just very simple and very easy to do. And then we have the anemones here, same exact pitcher from my kitchen. And again, they are spectacular as a standalone flower. So another option. Lisianthus, which has been cleaned and prepped. Works well in a tall glass cylinder. This could be great as an entry arrangement or something on a kitchen island. And then we have our gorgeous peonies, coral charm. Again, they are beautiful as a tall composition. So I wanted you guys to see all of these options because we're actually going to cut the stems down and make lower arrangements next. And then we have our French tulips. So with the French tulips, depending on the style and where you want to place them, they're even cool like this, tilted on an angle. I left foliage on the stem because I think it's a pretty texture to have. And I actually want to transfer them into this vase, which I've already measured the water level. So it's in line with foliage because I don't want the water to be above the leaves and the leaves in the water because then bacteria will grow and it isn't good. I literally just cut these and clean them, so I'm not going to recut them again, but I just want to show you quickly how I would put them into this vase. So I'm going to just use this, make like a little intersection in the middle, rotating as I go. And as you create an intersection like this, which you can see right here, it's fantastic because it helps anchor your stem, so it creates a bit of stability in your vase. Versus just cutting the stems and sticking it straight in a vase like that, then you have a more disorganized design. Whereas this allows us to kind of position the flowers where we want them, which is really helpful. Tulips grow 1/2 inch a day. So tomorrow, these are all going to be stretched up a little bit higher. They grow towards the light, so if you have them by the window, they'll start moving in that direction. And they prefer cool water. So that's what we're going to do with our French tulips today. Again, we can cut them down and incorporate them in our lower arrangements. We'll see how that process goes, and if we want to do that, we can. So from now on, I want to kind of take you through designing, but first we're going to talk about the vases. I have a whole collection of vases here. I have 2 small ones. This is a drinking glass from my kitchen, a little bud vase, which actually, I was thinking about this. The shape of this reminds me of like an oil diffuser. So if you ever had an empty oil diffuser bottle that you've washed really well, that could turn into a really cute vase for your powder room. This is great, cylinder shape. And then we have this sort of tapered shape. I always like to start with my larger arrangement first. And I have some little scraps here. These are the ranunculus buds that were attached to some of the stems. And then I have some lisianthus that actually broke while I was processing it. So always save your little buds, and then we can create little bud vases or some of these smaller pieces because these vases are shorter. These pieces will work well in there. All right, so let me set aside these little pieces and let's go straight for this vase. So when designing, I have my clippers ready. You guys can be using a knife and a cutting board, whatever's easier. I try to get a sense of how big I want this arrangement to be. And just bear in mind, your peonies might be arriving tighter than this. They could be really tight, but actually they'll open beyond this size. These are just now starting to peak open, but they will get a lot fuller. So just keep that in mind when you're making your design. You don't want to cut everything too short and tight, and then you don't leave enough room for your peonies to open, and it just doesn't look as pretty. So when designing, I always like to start with my largest flower first. which are my peonies. I have 10 stems. So what I'd like to do in this arrangement, because I know I want this one to be a little larger, maybe we'll put it on the dining room table or a coffee table. So I'm going to go in with, I think, 5 stems. Let's do 5, and I'll do this here. And the other thing is, although you've received your flowers today, you can wait a day or two to design with them if you want everything to open a little bit more. Because your anemones could also be tighter. Anemones are gorgeous, but sometimes they'll come tighter like this, which mine were. And now we're on the second day and they've opened right up. Okay, so we're gonna start with our, what I would call our base flower, our largest flower. And for you guys, you can just kind of angle it in front of your vase and kind of imagine where you wanna cut the stem. It's a good starting point until you get into a rhythm. And let's see if I cut that too long. Yeah, so that's too long. I can tell right away. I'm gonna go a little bit shorter. And you don't want any leaves in the vase. So, perfect. Let's cut a little bit shorter. So I am basically measuring my stem like that. So it gives you guys a sense of the length. When I'm designing, I always prefer to leave things a little bit longer because you can always go shorter. But if you cut it too short to begin with, then it's not as easy to go backwards. Or impossible, I should say. Okay. So now we have 4 in there. And now let me just show you with this little gem. I'm actually just going to gently come in with my index finger and my thumb. And I can push these petals back. You don't need to do this because they will open just fine. But I want to show you how I would do it. So if we were doing an event and they all needed to be open, like today was showtime, then we would go through very gently, petal by petal, and massage these little babies to bend backwards. Takes a little time and patience, because if you do it too quickly and if you use too much force, you'll tear the petal. So far, I've done every petal here without tearing any of them, because I've done this before. So by opening these up, we're loosening the center of the peony, which is going to slowly unfold. Actually, it'll unfold faster. But regardless, I'm doing that now because I want to get a sense of how much space I'm going to use. So I think I'm happy with that. Now, obviously, I have 5 stems in here. There's lots of open space, but we have, a lot more flowers to go. So let's move on to our next flower. So the next flower for me would be the Lisianthus. And I would choose this flower because I actually have more than one lateral on a stem. So if I snap this apart, I'll get 2 insertions in my arrangement. And for this design, I'm gonna go with, let's do 5 stems. I'm gonna start with 4 and see where it takes us. So right now, this 4 stems, beautiful. So I'm gonna start, if some of the pieces are shorter like this, you can remove the leaves and use them along the edge and just rest them very gently like that. If you feel like it's too short, just set it aside in your scrap vase and we'll use that afterwards. So for me, not sure how we would use this guy. No. So for me, I would probably cut this little gem off, set him aside for now, and then come in with my Lisianthus. Now we're going, I would say with the stem length, we're going about 2 inches longer than the peony. So now if I measure it up against the vase like that, I'm gonna go a little bit shorter. Gives you a sense of where to cut it. And again, I'm creating this intersection in the middle of my vase to make a grid for my stems to support each other. And the more you intersect them and crisscross them, you're able to position a stem just like that, and it'll stay there versus following all the way over to the edge. So utilizing your stems takes practice, but if you're mindful of it as you're designing, then you'll get the hang of it in no time. And if possible, I love leaving some of these leaves on. I can tell right now this is going to go in the water, so that needs to come off. But if there are leaves up here, I would say definitely leave them on. And the other thing when you're designing, remember, you can handle flowers very, very carefully and gently. And when you work with them, you don't need to like shove anything in. If you're being too forceful, then, you know, your preparation and your mechanics of your design may not be as organized as they should be. So that's why taking your time, if you can't figure out where to put a stem, just take a peek inside and you can find a little hole or a little opening. So I like this stem just like this. Let's see how that will work. Yeah, pretty. Look at that. And again, I want to leave it airy because these peonies are going to open up a bit more. And as they do, we want space for them to breathe. So I think that looks so beautiful. So let's move on to our ranuncula. And here I'm going to do 3 stems. So that was pretty good. We only did 4 lisianthus in here. And then I'm going to do 4 ranuncula. Now this is a flower that's so beautiful. And it's certainly one that you want to show off. So I'd like to make sure that we leave our stems a little bit longer, and these are kind of gracing more of the top of the design. You can do the same thing, just hold the stem up in front of your vase to see where you want to cut the length. And again, I can see inside my vase, so I can see exactly where I want this stem to go. Look at this gorgeous one. Spectacular. And oftentimes if we're working for an event or a wedding and we really need them to be a big showstopper like this, then we'll go through flower by flower, petal by petal, and gently opening them up. Lots of tricks for you guys. Okay, lovely, lovely. So now we have 4 ranuncula in there. And yes, a lot of times when we design, we do odd numbers. But because I'm trying to maximize the product and the amount of vases we have, you know, I chose to do 4 lisianthus, 4 ranuncula. And if we have some, you know, left over when we're done, then we can come back and add them, but we may not even need it. And quite frankly, it's our creation, so it's whatever we want to do. Next flower would be our anemone. And let's do, why don't we do 5 of these little beauties? All right, same thing, like we really want these to show off. So I'm not going to cut them too short. I want them to sort of grace the top of our bouquet, become a little bit more focal. And what's spectacular about the anemone, sometimes the shape of the stem is really special. So it can kind of give us that really wild garden shape. Okay, add these little leaves in there. Yeah, so this style composition is definitely more European, compact. We still have some movement and dimension happening in here with the lisianthus buds and each element kind of a little higher than the next. The next arrangement will be a little bit more freeform in style. And I think, you know, I do love my French tulips all alone, but I'm feeling like we could use them in this arrangement. So I know for a fact I'm going to add 1 more lisianthus. I want to do that because I see some holes I want to fill. And I think we're going to go in with some of the tulips. Why not? So I can see some holes deeper inside. So I'm going to just take my flower like this, find that little position and tuck it right in there. It's not a big deal having airiness in your design, but just something to be mindful of. If you like it, leave it. If you want to cover, you know, fill it in, then fill it in. You have that option. Pretty. I want to swap this anemone because I want one that's a little bit longer. Kind of change up the design a little bit. Pretty, pretty. Okay, look at that. I love it. Let's try one of these little buds. Best thing to do is add water to your flowers every single day. All right, these little guys are gonna get cut. Why not? We have them. Tulips grow a ½ inch a day. I told you that already, but it's just something to think about as you're making your design. If they're gonna be peeking out today, they're gonna be peeking out even more tomorrow, which is fine. You can leave them and let them do their thing, or you can actually come in and just cut them down every day. I want to show you another little trick with tulips once we get there. Okay. So I'm going to take this tulip here. I'm going to show you what we can do to it. And actually do the same thing with our index finger and our thumb. And petal by petal, gently from the base up, kind of massage it and bend it backward. Look at that transformation. I think we have to do it to all of them. Anyways, I'll do it to the few that are on the front so I don't have to take too much of your time. But you guys get the idea. But I mean, look at that. Oof, that's a beauty and a half. Perfect, one more. And then we're gonna move on to our other base. I can't help it, I gotta do all of them. Perfectionist. That's what happens. Last one, I'll do it one more time so you guys can see. Thumb, index finger, sometimes 2 fingers. Beautiful, beautiful. Ah, gorgeous. Oh my gosh, and look at this petal. There's a stripe inside. Who knew? Never would have known until I did that. Now look at this little gem. So beautiful. And keep in mind, the tulips are gonna stretch. So I think this is really pretty, and I hope this inspires you guys to make a gorgeous garden composition. Okay, so let's move this aside, and let's bring this one out. And here we have, let's go ahead with, I'm gonna do 5 peonies here. Why not? Or let's do 4. I want to save them for our last 2 bases. All right, so same idea. Start with your largest flower first, measure your stem, and cut and insert. I'm gonna leave a few of these a little bit longer, so the shape of this design can be a little bit less compact. So it's almost like we have 2 layers. We have our lower layer and our taller layer. And as we add more flowers, we'll be able to help support these in a better position. And from there, we're going to move on to our lisianthus. We have 4 stems. I'm going to take apart all the little pieces that I want to use. These little buds are fantastic also, so definitely use those. And I want to keep this, again, a little bit longer. So inserting on an angle. Separate these. Now we can show off a stem like this. When we use a shorter arrangement, when we make a shorter arrangement, it isn't always as easy to show off both of the blooms. Okay. Again, intersecting my stems. Working with a Lazy Susan, which is this thing that rotates, is so helpful because as you're designing, you always want to step back, look at your creation, see how it's coming together, make sure you don't have any leaves in the water. Because sometimes if you're focused on one side, then you may not create your ideal arrangement. This little guy's gonna get lost, so I wanna cut him. I'm going to save him for a bud base. So I'm going to stick him in my little scrap collection over here. Let's come like this. Ooh, look at this stem. That's so gorgeous. And it's also nice to have depth in your design. So you want some lower pieces, some higher pieces, and really just play around with the movement of the flowers. And as you play, you'll establish your design style and be able to create what makes you happiest. All right, great. Shaping up really nicely. Just move this stuff aside so we can get a better view. Feeling a little squished. It's always nice to have a clean workspace and a clean work surface, surrounding you here so you can see what you're doing. So from here, we're going to go on to our ranuncula. And let's see. I always take a look at the stem of the ranuncula, depending on where I want to put it, because look, this one has a very bent neck, which is beautiful, and positioned, forward facing will be great. And these two here are a bit more upright, so those could be really great, at a higher point in the design. So just things to think about. And sometimes if you are using a stem and it's flopping around too much, just turn the angle of the stem, like recut it and then position it differently in your vase, and you'll be surprised how it could look like a different flower. Oh my gosh, this one's spectacular. If you have to take out a flower while you're designing, don't just yank it out, twist it. Like just twist it like this and pull, and it'll come up. Okay. Okay. Shape nicely. We're gonna go in with one more beautiful ranuncula here. Okay. And move on to our anemones. Same thing with anemones. I like to look at the shape of the stem to figure out where we're going to position it. It has a beautiful bend, so even right in here is quite pretty. You also want to make sure you respect the space of each flower. For me, these two flowers, they're too close. So we're going to move those in just 1 second. Look at that. Spectacular. Oh my gosh, we're so lucky to be getting these flowers. Can't even tell you. How pretty is this? Okay, so I said I wanted to move this one ranuncula. Okay, now we're gonna add some pretty little tulips. And we're gonna come in on our angle. That's a pretty bend, so I'm thinking maybe we'll throw it in. We'll put it over here. Want to lose this petal, so it was broken. It was like kind of bent, but I just folded it back with my fingers, so I don't want to take it off completely. Spectacular. I'm telling you, I've been doing flowers for a long time, and I still get so excited with the magnificent detailing from Mother Nature. It's so pretty. So we're so lucky that we're able to offer this great service to you guys, because really, to get your hands in it and to get creative like this, it's a whole new experience to enjoying flowers, for sure. Okay, now I have to look at the front of this and put some tweaks on it. Peel my petals. And you want to, may have mentioned this before, but you want to check your water level every single day because you want fresh water. A lot of times what I do is just take this whole vase like this to my sink, just push everything aside. You can dump the water out or you can just let your faucet run right in there and it will help push the old water out and get some nice clean water in there. So for me, I think this is quite lovely. Isn't it beautiful? Now, it is still airy, but I like that about this. And we have to keep in mind that the peonies are still developing, so they're going to get bigger. And you want to leave space for them to move around. Except for I see one tiny hole that's bothering me. So, of course, I'm going to snag a piece of Lycianthus here. I see a hole like down deep in the center. I'll show you guys. Yeah, like right down in here. So I just want to take this Lycianthus and nestle that in nice and deep. Yeah, and that did exactly what I needed it to do. So that's fantastic. Arrangement number two. Number 2 finished. Okay, so now I'm gonna just move these vases aside. And we have our drinking glass and our bud vase. So here we are. I think what we're gonna do, we could probably do a couple bud vases, but I'm gonna clean my stems, get rid of the leaves. We'll do this first, working down to our smallest vase. So again, I would come in with let's do our peony. We're just gonna do, do we wanna do 2? Let's do 2. One a little shorter, one a little taller. So pretty. And we can come in with some Lycianthus. Actually, I'm gonna cut it shorter. The shorter you cut the stem to the edge of the vase, the easier it is to fill it up. And also when you're designing, you want to make sure that there is sort of this connectivity between the flowers and the vessel. So just be mindful of how it all ties together. So I'm doing the same thing using that sort of crisscross insertion where my stems are intersecting. So isn't that sweet? And then we have a couple, actually I'm going to save the anemones. I'm going to come in with some of the ranunculus buds, use up our scraps, and oftentimes these will open as well, so just keep that in mind. Perfect. I just cut these, so I'm not cutting them. I literally just cut them and put them in the water. So we are almost ready. And from there, I'm going to add a couple more buds. Might as well just use them all up. Okay. Very sweet. Look at that. I'm going to cut this one a little bit shorter. Oopsie. Perfect. And again, we're leaving room for these peonies to open because they definitely are going to open. So this is great for a little bedside table, a little powder room, whatever it might be. And now we have our bud vase. And we have, looks like 2 anemone left and 2 ranunculus. So I might just use the anemone in here. Oh, so beautiful. I might just use the anemone. And then, yeah, I think I like that, just like that. And then put the 2 ranunculus in this little mixed arrangement. Or if you had another bud vase, you could just do the 2 ranunculus together like that. But I'm just gonna add them in here. Gorgeous. Oh gosh. The detail in this flower. It's like these little teeny tiny stripes, but they look like they've been hand painted. Okay, clean up as we go, and then I'll show you review our finished products. Great. Okay, so we have this little masterpiece. We have our smaller arrangement in our bud vase, and then we have this beautiful arrangement. Look at that. So beautiful. I really hope this has inspired you and that you've learned a little bit. Open up those kitchen cabinets, see what you can find, and make some beautiful arrangements. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a great time. Bye.